Okay, where were we? I think we'd done the state, hadn't we? And said that the state could theoretically give grannies Porsches if the physical resources of the universe were up to the job. And as long as the financial resources of the country were up to it, which I think we'll probably come back to later in this video. There's another factor, which is an important factor because politics is political, and political means getting somewhere along the line the goodwill of the people. You probably won't get it for what you're doing right now while you're in power, but you need to get it to get re-elected or elected in the first place. So we can open it up to three things. You need the universe's physical capability to give you what you want, the financial capability to buy those resources and create what's needed, and the goodwill of the people to distribute these things to the people, be they Porsches or hospitals or schools with this, that and the other, whatever. The physical resources I think we can drop. It's never really going to be a constraint, except in small circumstances that we won't go into. The will of the people is important. It's very important, and maybe should be a separate video, because fairness is something that people, all people, really, really have. Born into them as babies. Everyone's got, at every age, has got an idea of fairness. And it is what is the most important thing to most people when discussing what they'd call serious subjects. Fairness is very important. So what have we got? Money and fairness. Which to do first? Leave fairness as just we understand what fairness is, so the people will vote for what they think is fair. An example would be Porsches to Gran would not be voted for unless everything else was upgraded to that level. In other words, the schools and the hospitals, etc., and everything had to be upgraded to Porsche level, and then that would be seen as fair. But you can't have Granny having a Porsche and your children's schools being 50 child to a class. It's got to be on a level. To a certain extent, the people will always see that it's on a level to a certain extent, because they go around looking for fairness and will shout when it's out of whack. So the main thing really is the money. Where's the money going to come from? We hear this so much in the media about politics. Where's the money going to come from? The trouble is here that people don't understand what money is. Nobody understands what money is. Financial people don't understand what money is. Central bankers don't understand what money is. And government don't understand what money is. The people don't understand what money is. The main reason being is that calling it money is very... it leads you the wrong way. It leads you into error. And the reason that these particular groups don't understand money, finance is a much better word for it, finance, because we think we know what money is, but finance is kind of, we don't use it so much as a word, so it's a better coverall word for it. So, because finance is not one thing, as in money is not one thing. Finance, money, is many things to many people, or all things to all people. It's a great, great mistake to think that money is one thing and it works the same for you and me, for a government, for a bank, for an investment bank, for a company. All these, we imagine that all these entities are using the same thing, which is money, and they just do it in different ways because we're all different. But that is absolutely not true, and you'll never understand finance if you think that is true. Each individual entity has their own finance, we'll call it vocabulary, but it's geography as well, and history and everything, because it all comes from the mistake comes from the fact that we think we know what money is and it's one thing. But money is not one thing. Money is a great, great slew of things. And this is why it's a great mistake to talk about money, because it's not one thing. It's not two things. It's not three things. It's thousands of things. Finance is what money is. That's more like it as a word description. Forget money. Money is a completely stupid word for describing the greater overall, the overarching thing that covers all these different entities. And this is the reason that government don't understand it, bankers don't understand it, central bankers don't understand it, because they understand their particular entity. And they might have an idea about, brother and sister entities on each side, but there's nobody that understands the whole swathe of it going across. Don't think that I do, but the blockage of understanding even your own little square around you is the fact of thinking that money is a thing. Money is not a thing, and describing what money is so incredibly difficult that I don't think I'm going to attempt it, certainly not here in this video. So this is our main problem. The will of the people will not be made available to the politicians to give more stuff out to people, because it would entail, let's call it, this might cause trouble, but it'll sort some things out for some people. Let's have MMT here, and if you understand what MMT is, you'll get a bit more of an understanding of this video than other people will. MMT have got an idea of what finance is, and of course it's not right and it's not wrong. It's depending exactly where you look at it from. Let's even go like this. Where you look at it from, MMT is right. If you look at it from the MMT point of view, it's completely right. It's bulletproof, hole-proof, it's completely right. But to get it right, you need all the views, or you have to get what we're talking about here is the will of the people and the go-get of the government aligned, looking at a view which they can both understand together, so they can give more pensions out, let's say, on this example. But you're not going to get it because government see finances as a different way to people see finances. That government finances are incredibly complicated, and I would say 1 in 1,000 government people really understand government finances. And household finances, 1 in 1,000,000 people understand government finances. So how are government, when you've got 1 in 1,000 people there understanding what government finance is, going to explain and make a program look fair to people where only 1 in 1,000,000 understand that person that's 1 in 1,000? What I'm saying is unless you understand there's a great agglomeration of people that understand finances, you're not going to get change, because everyone's stuck in their rut of thinking that they understand money. And we're all brought up in our limited, exceptionally limited understanding of what money is. And the politicians take that into government, the same as in households, and everyone's firing off this strange idea. They don't know what money is, basically. If you ask people what money is, what will they say? They've got this vague idea. They won't say that they don't know, but you won't get them to tell you what money is and where it comes from, because they don't really know, but they think it's something to do with, well, you go to work and create money. That's where money comes from. You go to work and create it. And then there's this political thing that when you create the money at work, you get your wages, and there's an extra bit on top which is taken by management and owners. And that's the unfair bit, that they take the extra money that we've created. And it's something like that. When, of course, that is utter bollocks. But ask your mum where money comes from. Ask yourself, where does money come from? How is money created? And it's not just this simple that it's credit and banks create credit. That's a much more advanced understanding of what finance is than I go to work and create money. And when I was a lad, when you were a millionaire, it was very impressive. And now we talk in trillions. So where have the extra millions and billions and trillions all come from? Just ask a few people where they think they've come from. You know, what's the source of all this money? And the very wise ones will say, well, it's bank credit. And that's a very, very advanced understanding of it. But it's nowhere near good enough. Nowhere near good enough to get a proper understanding of what finance is, which is slightly more advanced than that. So, can you imagine getting government to explain to people what finance is enough that the people will vote for the government to say it's fair that we should have a universal basic income? For example, and I say laughably no, not a chance. No government will be able to explain to the people enough about money, finances and how it works to explain how it is fair a universal basic income is fair. They won't be able to do it because none of the people involved understand finance. So how are they going to make it sound fair? Well, they could do it by lying, but I don't think it would work, because the fairness alarm will go off in the people, and the people will ask 1,000 questions, and the politicians will not be able to answer those questions because they don't understand finance. Just the ignorant questions of the people will be enough to expose the politicians' ignorance of finance. And the bankers and the central bankers won't be able to help them, because the bankers and central bankers only understand their bits of finance as well. There's not enough answers when it comes to finance. It's not even that it's complicated, although it is complicated. It's that it just doesn't sound right when compared to what we've all been brought up with. What we've been brought up with, it doesn't sound right because it's never really examined, because as soon as you examine it, you find that it's utter nonsense. This work creates money, or whatever it might be, whatever you think it might be. It's wrong, but it's kind of what we believe. It's like it's a religion. money, because we've been brought up in a way to kind of believe what money is. We are believers in that. And if somebody comes along and scientifically explains to you how your belief and everybody around you and all the stuff that all of the stuff you've been brought up with, explaining what money finance is wrong, people will not accept it. Can't accept it. It's too much for people to accept. So universal basic income, as an example, will not be sold to the people because there's too much ignorance. And always will be. Well, when I say always, always theoretically goes on for a long time, but it's certainly in our lifetimes that there's going to be far too much ignorance around to go anywhere near universal basic income. A few very nice, liberally people all think that it's a super duper idea, or even socialists, I don't know. But I'm not saying that what the other people call the capitalists, that they're right in saying don't do it. They'll be wrong, but just for different reasons. They're equally as ignorant of finance as everybody else. But it's got to sound fair to the people, so they've got to understand it in their own language, and it will be impossible to explain to them in their own language how it is possible, especially by people who themselves don't understand it.